Welcome to Storyflix. In this video, we will explain Love and Run. This movie tells the story of a boy who has grown up with his father and his beautiful auntie. He is always overprotective of his auntie. Whoever dares to flirt with her will be dealt with him. But no one thought that his feelings would turn into love. Will the love story of a nephew and his aunt be true? Let's find out in Love and Run. Love and Run begins by showing a high school girl named Lynn. Lynn is a very beautiful girl, studious and loves to read romantic comics. She often imagines that one day she will have a romantic love story and a happy ending like the stories in the comics she often reads. Currently she lives with her older brother, King, who owns a simple restaurant business that is quite popular with the public because of his delicious cuisine. King is a kind person and really cares for Lynn, even though his words are too blunt. King has a son named Do who also lives with them. Do is only a year younger than Lynn and they attend the same high school. Do has a dream as a national athlete and trains hard every day to achieve his goals. While at school, Lynn always got into trouble when Do was starting to be overprotective towards her, especially when she was close to another young man who tried to express his love for her. Do always sabotages all the boys' efforts to get his pretty auntie. He doesn't hesitate to rebuke anyone who tries to be rude to Lynn because he loves his auntie so much. Apparently, Do's desire to become a national athlete did not get full support from his father, who expected him to continue his diner business because he did not have enough money to pay for Do's education to college. However, Do refused and persisted in wanting to achieve his dream of becoming a running athlete. Therefore, he then decided to leave home in order to achieve his dream. Long story short, 4 years later, Do finally managed to get a scholarship and continue his education by studying in Bangkok. Meanwhile, Lynn successfully graduated from nursing school and is now working as a physiotherapist in a hospital in Bangkok. However, Do's dream of becoming a runner for the national team had to be put on hold because he had to lose during a test event at his college. After his defeat in the national running test event, he decided to leave college and work in a supermarket with his friend, a young man named Amon. One day, Do sees Lynn shopping at the supermarket where he works, together with Anne, her very feminine co-worker, even though he is a burly man. Do immediately hid because he was worried that Lynn would complain to his father about him being on leave from college and working in a supermarket. Lynn then told Anne about her favorite comic, which is the most romantic story, where she has always wished to have a romantic love story. While at the hospital, Lynn met a man named Man, an indie musician by profession. Man intends to join a therapy program and asks Lynn as his therapist because he loves her and is very infatuated with her. Even though she felt uncomfortable with Man's attitude, who openly seduced her with a grapevine, Lynn remained professional and treated him like any of her other patients. Man not only openly approached Lynn during therapy sessions, but also tried to approach her outside of work hours and urged her to let him accompany her to the supermarket shopping. Unmitigated, Man is even willing to move to the same apartment building as Lynn to always be close to her. Knowing that his beloved auntie was being approached by a strange man like Man, Do decided to move into Lynn's apartment and live with her because he was worried about Lynn. Meanwhile, Lynn, who tried to reject Man by saying that she likes athletic men. Man then went to Lynn's apartment while showing his persistence to win Lynn's love by diligently exercising and building muscles so that his body becomes more athletic. After that, Do visited Lynn's apartment with Amon and decided to stay with her. Lynn looked surprised and happy to see her nephew after so long. She also didn't mind if Do stayed with her. Do told Lynn that he had worked for a Japanese company but didn't talk about his studies. Not long after, Lynn got a call from King asking where his son was. Do, who was there, then asked Lynn not to say anything to his father about moving to her apartment. Since then, Do has always accompanied Lynn, always been by her side, and protected her from mashers who tried to approach her. Do asks if Lynn already has a boyfriend or someone she likes. But Lynn said that she is a grown-up and did not have to worry about herself and her love life. While at the hospital, Anne told Lynn that a student was coming to the hospital to do research. Soon, Lynn and her co-workers meet Dr. Ek, a handsome and kind doctor who is the dream of nurses working in hospitals. It was clear that Lynn liked Dr. Ek because she tried to appear sweet and graceful when dealing with the doctor. One day, Man comes to Lin's apartment and is very surprised to see Do there. Knowing that Do is Lin's nephew, Man's attitude turns very friendly and invites Lin and Do to eating together. However, their meal together turned absurd and less pleasant for Lin and Do. The next day, when Do comes to the hospital to help Lin carry some things, he meets his junior in college, a young man named Game, who turns out to be a student who will be doing research at the hospital. Due to their meeting, Lin finally finds out that Do has left college since his sophomore year. After that, she showed Game a fairly simple therapy method, which from the look on his face, it was clear that Game was very fascinated by Lin's beauty and liked her. Game then asked Lin to help him make a video tutorial on physical therapy, and Lin agreed to help. At the same time, Do, who saw the closeness of Game and Lin, became very jealous and angry because his junior who had defeated him in the national running test event now began to approach his beautiful beloved auntie. Later that night, Do told his manager at the supermarket, where he then suggested that he work with Man to separate Game and Lin. Do then followed the advice of his manager. He then meets Man at a cafe, where he works as a freelance musician, and provokes him about Game and Lin's relationship. Man, who heard this, was then angry and did not accept if another man approached the woman he idolized. The next day, when Lin and Game were having a therapy session in the park with some participants for Game research, Man suddenly came up to the two of them and seemed annoyed to see Game and Lin sitting alone. When Game asks Lin about Man, she replies that Man is just one of her patients. Knowing that Lin only saw him as a patient after all the things he had done for her, Man left the two of them with a sad and disappointed look. After that, Lin came to the supermarket, where Do worked to look for the bag that she had left behind for some time. She was then told to contact a customer service officer who handles lost items via chat to inquire about her bag. Unbeknownst to her, the customer service officer in question was Do, who deliberately played the role of someone else to continue communicating with Lin. Lin and Do's conversation through customer service chat continued, and they started to talk about other things, and Do was acting like a man who fell in love with Lin. Do had fallen in love with Lin long ago. However, due to the brotherly bond between them, Do was unable to reveal it to Lin. Do knows that Lin really likes the romantic genre of comics, then started to lead the conversation in that direction, which made Lin feel comfortable and finally found someone who had a lot in common with her. Lin is experiencing this for the first time, and for some reason, she feels that the man who chats with her through customer service chat is the man she has longed for, even though she had never met the man. Long story short, Lin finally found out that Do worked at a supermarket and he was a customer service officer who had been chatting with her through chat. Lin felt very disappointed in Do because he had toyed with her. While Lin was having lunch with Game, Do suddenly came and intervened in their meeting. Do was still trying to block any man who tried to get close to Lin. Seeing Do's overprotective attitude towards her, Lin immediately became angry and firmly asked him to stop interfering in her affairs. Lin even threatened not to see him again if he still followed her, interfered in her affairs, and asked him to return to college. One day, Lin returns to the village to meet King and tell him everything about Do. King had expected this and didn't really care about his son. However, King looked worried at the thought of an offer from someone who intended to buy their parents' house and intended to discuss the matter with Lin. Even though Lin said she didn't expect anything from the house because she thought that King had more rights over their parents' house, King still felt that he should discuss the matter with Lin and tell her about their family secret. A few days later, when Do was participating in the test event for the qualification for the national team runners, Game had cornered him and said that Do would not be able to win the obstacle course because that sport was not his specialty. However, Do insisted on taking the test, even though he didn't get the results he expected in the first round. Towards the second half, unexpectedly, his father came to see him and told Do about their family secret, namely King, who turned out to be not Lin's brother. Lin is the only daughter of the house and restaurant business owner, while he is the only employee there. However, Lin's family was very kind to him and treated him like their own son. When they died, King promised himself to care for and protect Lin like his own family. Realizing that he and Lin don't have the kinship bond as he had thought, Do became more enthusiastic in participating in the second round of the trial event and managed to win it. Seeing Lin come and be in the crowd of spectators watching the match, Do immediately chased her and expressed the feelings of love he had hidden for her. However, when Do told his family secret, Lin was not at all happy because it meant she was living alone because King and Do were not her families. Do immediately felt guilty because he was too blinded by his love for Lin, so he did not understand Lin's feelings of sadness and disappointment after knowing that she was living alone. After everything was revealed, Lin felt very disappointed and lonely and decided to be alone. She then applied for a scholarship and intended to continue her education in England. She also still refused to meet and talk to Do. Before she departed for England, Lin called King and thanked him for all his kindness over the years, for caring for and loving her like family. After that, King told Do about Lin's plans to go overseas. Knowing that Lin was going far away, Do rushed to the airport to prevent his beloved auntie from leaving. Do finally met Lin at the airport and apologized to her. Lin forgives Do, but she remains determined to continue her studies in England. Lin reveals that she is not angry with Do, but feels sad and heartbroken after finding out that she is alone and has no family, in contrast to Do, who feels happy because he has no brotherly ties with her. Do then told Lin that harboring feelings of unspeakable love for so many years had also saddened him so much that when he was finally able to express it, he was very happy. He does not care whether Lin will return his love or consider him just a nephew, because the most important thing for him is Lin, who is always by his side. Do then promised not to get in the way of Lin if she wanted to have a boyfriend, because he would let her go. Lin was flabbergasted at Do's words. However, her decision to continue her studies in England was unanimous and she finally left Do, who was heartbroken to see the departure of the woman he loved. Long story short, Lin has lived in England for a long time. She forgot her problem and began to make peace with herself. She also realized several things from her experience so far, where love stories in real life are not as beautiful as love stories found in romantic comics. Sometimes, love will be one-sided. Not infrequently, even though they love each other, there is always a reason separating them. Many times, even though you have tried hard to get the love you want, but in the end, true love can be forced. Last but not least, sometimes compatibility in love appears by accident. Lin now doesn't care whether she has a boyfriend because the most important thing for her now is family. On the other hand, Do decided to continue his father's diner business after graduating. His relationship with his father also improved. In the end, Lin decided to go home to King and Do because she realized that family ties don't have to be blood ties. But it must be formed from love and care for one another. Lin hugged Do tightly when she finally met him after so long. The film ends by showing Do to take Lin to work, where he asks whether Lin already has a boyfriend or not. Lin answered Do's question with just her sweet smile. Through this film, we are shown a sweet story about the meaning of love for family, where both Do, Lin, and King both finally realize that the most important thing in their lives is the family bond that exists between them. Even though they are not related by blood, they love each other and are willing to do anything to make their beloved family happy.